I'm going to use the script because there are a few things that are a little different today. So before we begin, please note this meeting is being recorded. Welcome to everyone joining us here in person, as well as those listening in on the phone. If you'd like to provide public comment at today's meeting, and if you've not done so already, please let Thomas in the back of the room or Justine on the call-in line know what items you would like to speak on today. Madam Secretary, please begin by calling the roll.
Thank you and good morning again, everyone. Starting with Director Dorsey, who's absent. Giudice.
Here.
Grosboll.
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
Maston.
Here.
Berdoni.
Here.
Vice Chair Farr.
Present.
Chair Rabbit is absent and President Cochran.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, but you are also a committee of the whole. Also in the room with us is Directors Garbarino, Hill, Moulton Peters, Snyder, Theriot, and Thier.
Thank you. Welcome to all of you. As usual, please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom right-hand corner of the packet. And before we start, I'd like to just note that we did have a public comment from Andrew Sholin that was on your table, and I'd just like to acknowledge that that has been received for the minutes. We'll begin with agenda item number 3, which is ratification of previous actions by the Auditor Controller. The staff report begins on page 5, and Monique, welcome. Monique Spike with PFM is here today to go over the PFM investment report. I understand that you had a hard time getting here.
Oh, good morning.
It's the fog.
You know what? After a couple of beautiful days of weather, it was rather surprising.
Yes, well, welcome.
Refreshing.
A bit beautiful. We all live here, so beautiful weather. Thank you so much for your flexibility. It's always a pleasure to be with this committee. Just a couple of thoughts. I want to start by talking about the Fed meeting in June. As expected, at their meeting on June 12th, the Fed kept the overnight target rate in its current range of 5.25 to 5.50. This was anticipated by the market. We've talked in the past about the fact that the Fed had essentially communicated that they would not be as aggressive with lowering interest rates. We now believe that we may see 2 interest rate cuts this year, which is, as we all know, a big departure from the 6 that the market expected at the start of 2025. We believe that the market is still focused on consumer activity and interest rates as the main driver of economic response. Prices have declined for the first time in 4 years, and that's been a net positive for the market. Markets have also responded favorably, quite frankly, to the recent job reports. Some things that I'll highlight that are in your packet are the labor market softening that you'll see on our page 3 of our report. Unemployment rate rose slightly to 4.1%, and the monthly change in non-farm payrolls were revised lower by an average of 111,000 jobs over the May, April, and June reports. Now, why is that significant? Well, the Fed is looking to moderate both job growth and interest rate cuts. So when we see the labor market softening, that gives the Fed some cover that perhaps the policy is working as anticipated. But we're not seeing huge labor market concerns, and so we still believe that we'll sort of meet that soft landing that's anticipated. One thing to keep an eye on is consumer spending in relation to the expectation of the job market. What we're seeing is as the jobs continue to decline, folks are hiring less. That could have some negative implications for consumer spending, which has quite frankly been elevating or lifting the economy over this period. So that is something that we're going to watch. But it's again hopeful that if the Fed actually does move at the end of the year as anticipated, that might balance out the stress on the consumer. There have been some questions from some of our other clients about the political environment and whether that's having an impact on markets. Surprisingly, the market continues to be relatively neutral as it relates to the political environment. We're seeing that you're seeing more impacts on a sector-specific basis, maybe technology markets or other markets that could have a say in which administration might have more favorable policies. But the economy as a whole has not really shifted or had any response for investors in the interest rate markets. Now, as far as it relates to the district's portfolio, there hasn't been that many changes in interest rates despite the volatility over the past month. We saw interest rates in the 2-year Treasury decline about 12 basis points over the month when you compare May to June. But as a whole, that's anticipated as we get closer to Fed policy action on interest rates. For our part, we have continued our strategy as we've communicated to this board of really focusing on taking advantage of higher interest rates as they persist, focusing on what we call a neutral duration strategy. And by that, what we simply mean is we're targeting investments to your stated cash flow needs as far out as we can, because the interest rate environment is attractive and we don't want to be artificially short or artificially long on our maturity structure for the portfolio. So you'll see a maturity structure on the last page of our report that's distributed across the yield curve. You'll notice that the combined portfolio yields have continued to rise as we've been able to invest in higher yielding investments for the district. As interest rates start to decline later in the year, you'll start to see your overnight investment yields slowly start to fall off a little bit. So you should expect that sort of combined portfolio yield to have some impact. And by combined, I mean that's that last line, including Latham Camp. But for now, we're still fairly positive. Those yields are still elevated, and we're continuing our practice of taking advantage of higher rates on the longer term investments that we purchase for the district. So that was a lot. I'm happy to entertain questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions for Monique?
I just have one.
Sure, Director Theater.
You might have already covered this, but what is your projection on how the interest rate reductions, the two you mentioned, will affect our portfolio at the district?
That's a great question. So currently, the strategy that's in place for the district is we monitor sort of short-term cash opportunities. And your short-term investment vehicles, they include things like the California Asset Management Program. That is essentially tied directly to the federal funds target rate. So as that rate declines, you will see that portion of your portfolio's yield decline as well. And so looking at your portfolio analysis, that's a relatively significant portion of the portfolio. However, we are balanced with the longer term portfolio that's invested in longer term investment options. And that portion of the portfolio in some ways has already priced in the expected decline in interest rates. The 2-year Treasury, which is a great proxy investment yield for reinvestments on the portfolio, has already declined over the last few months, and that's sort of that pricing in of the Fed activity. So going forward, we expect to see a slight reduction in the rate on that portfolio. And so overall, you can expect the portfolio yield to slowly start to decline, but we don't expect significant declines until the start of 2025.
Thank you. Are there other questions for Monique? If not, thank you very much, Monique. We appreciate the fact. Was there one? Oh, we appreciate the fact that you would take the time to come and meet with us personally.
It's a pleasure. And it's always great to be able to drive into San Francisco and pay the tolls.
All right.
It's music to our ears. All right. That concludes our discussion of item number 3. Before we take our vote, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no speakers for this item.
All right. Thank you. May I have a motion on item 3, please?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show that there's no opposition and the motion passes. We have no budget adjustments or transfers this month, so we'll move on to item 5A, which is to authorize filing an application with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission for fiscal year 24-25 Transportation Development Act, State Transit Assistance and Regional Measure 2 operating funds, one long title, to support bus, ferry, and paratransit services. The staff report begins on page 25, and Amy Fry will present this report.
Actually, Amy's
I
not
don't believe
available
it is.
today.
I
but
believe
that's
it's
okay.
Jennifer.
That's right. Good morning, Chair Parr and members of the Finance Committee. I'm here to present basically an annual item that we do for approval for our application with MTC for your, as we call it, or your STA, TDA, RM2, and RM3, if you want to go through the alphabet soup. But those are the funds that we need your approval to in order to submit the application. The total funds this year are estimated about 30.1 million, which is about 3.5 million less than last year. And that's just due to a one-time that we got last year for RM3 and a little bit of reduction that's happening in just revenues overall for the STA Marin. You can see in the back of the item, there's a chart. So if you want any, I'm happy to answer any questions on any of the details on questions you may have.
Right, are there any questions for Jennifer on this item? Hearing none, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak to this item?
We have no speakers for this item.
All right. In that case, may I have a motion, please, for this item?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Let the record show there's no opposition and the motion passes. Thank you, Jennifer. We will now continue with item number 6, which is what we asked for last meeting, which is a presentation on bus operator compensation. A copy of the PowerPoint presentation begins on page 29, and I'll let Dennis introduce folks. But Les Belton is here to walk us through the presentation, as is Jamas. So with that, I'll turn things over to Dennis.
Thanks. It's a detailed presentation. There's a lot of information, so staff would ask that you indulge us and hold your questions to the end so that we can get through it.
I was supposed to say that, but I didn't. I'm sorry. Would you please hold your questions to the end? How's that?
Thank you,
Yeah,
Madam Chair.
then it doesn't come from you.
So late last year, we presented to one of the board committees a detailed salary survey of all classifications at the district, represented and non-represented, to show how our pay compares with our sister agencies here in the Bay Area. And as part of the presentation, our basic wage rate for our bus operators looked a little low, and staff assured you, though, that our compensation wasn't because of our pay formula, which we then told you was quite complicated. You asked, well, maybe at some future meeting when the agenda's not too busy, you could come and talk to us about that. Then more recently, at last month's board meeting, there was a lot of public comment from our bus operators about the August sign up, and you'll learn more about what a sign up is as part of this detailed presentation. And so the request was made by our board president to come back to this committee this month with that detailed presentation. So just as background, our bus operators are represented, very ably represented, by Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1575. And we have currently we have a collective bargaining agreement that is in effect. So we are not in negotiations with them, unlike what you'll learn about tomorrow with all the other union represented employees here at the district who we have a settlement with. But so their contract runs through August 31st of 2025. And per that collective bargaining agreement, they will receive a 3.5% increase in their basic wage rate as September 1st, in just about a month and a half. That collective bargaining agreement includes the basic wage rate, the pay formula, which you're going to learn more than you probably want to about, as well as rules on breaks, bidding vacations, and other working conditions. But the pay formula is quite complicated and it is unique. Other transit operators across the country may have higher basic hourly wage rates, but they have different pay formulas that affects the ultimate compensation someone earns. And so I just want to be clear that our operators are, we believe, appropriately compensated as detailed in our collective bargaining agreement. And non-represented bus operators across the country have no pay formula, basically. Some of you were recently at an APTA conference for board members and clerks of the board. down in San Jose about a week and a half ago. And at that, some of you heard Jeff Tumlin, the head of SFMTA, stand up and say, San Francisco strives to have the highest paid bus operators in the country. And I think you all took note of that, and some of you are nodding your head. Their basic hourly wage rate is several dollars an hour more than ours, significantly. However, please note that that's somewhat misleading. State law requires that the state controller's office publish by name the wages for every public employee in California. So you can go download SFMTA's data, you can do a search in your spreadsheet for bus operators, and then you can see what their wage rates are. So as part of this presentation, you'll learn that last year in 2023, the typical Golden Gate bus operator earned more than the typical Muni bus operator. So touche, Mr. Tumlin. I also would mention that the other end of our service area is Santa Rosa. Santa Rosa is a big city. People don't realize it sometimes. The population of Santa Rosa is almost as big as Marin. Santa Rosa has their own bus system. And last year, the typical Golden Gate bus operator earned $35,000 more than the typical Santa Rosa bus operator. So it's important to provide context as we walk through this. So the presentation today will be done by Les and Jameis, so I will introduce them. Les Belton joined us in November, about 8 months ago. Since Les joined us, we have graduated 24 bus operators, and we currently have a class underway that has 8 operators in it, and hopefully they all graduate next month. With him is Jameis Yeager. Jameis is our bus operations control center manager. Jameis originally started with us as a bus operator, and he's moved through a variety of positions as he's navigated his career with the Bridge District. And so we're pleased that we have had the opportunity to have him as part of our team. So with that, I believe Jameis is kicking it off. So welcome, Jameis, and welcome, Les.
Thank you. Good morning, Vice Chair Parr and members of the committee. As Dennis said, my name is Jameis Yeager. I'm the Operations Control Center Manager for the Bus Division. We are here today to give an overview of the bus operator's pay formula and the bus operator runbook sign-up process. An overview of this presentation will consist of general information, timekeeping details, pay calculations, and finally, key statistical data from 2023. At the end of this presentation, you will have a better understanding of the complexity of the bus operator pay formula, but also see the benefits it offers our operators. This section will touch on pay cycles, accruals, and the bus operator hourly rate. Some background information. Bus operators have a biweekly payroll cycle with a payday on Wednesdays. HASIS is the timekeeping system used to record bus operator pay. It's the most up-to-date and efficient. And a Golden Gate Transit bus operator's current hourly rate is $35.57. However, a pay increase to $36.81 will be effective September 1st of this year. In future slides, you will see calculations and examples using HASIS pay codes that transfer time into Financial Enterprise FE, which payroll uses to accurately calculate the pay formulas. Next slide. Sick and vacation accruals are earned monthly. And are another paid benefit for bus operators. Operators must be in a district pay status for 16 days out of the month to accrue. Vacation accruals are earned in the current year for the next year, and the accrual period resets monthly. Please note that operators with the following years at the district are awarded their corresponding weeks of vacation. 1 to 4 years receives 1 week of vacation. 4 to 10 years receives 3 weeks of vacation. 10 to 20 years receives 4 weeks of vacation. 20 to 29 years receives 5 weeks of vacation, and 29 years or more receives 6 weeks of vacation. This table displays the minimum pay an operator earns at each scale. At the bottom of the scale, new student operators, now referred to as apprentices, are at Tier 1 at 85%. Once they graduate the Golden Gate Transit training class, they're at Tier 2 at 90%. 6 months after graduation, they're at Tier 3 at 95%, and 1 year after graduation, operators are at the top tier of pay at 100%. Unlike other agencies, a benefit Golden Gate Transit operators have is the ability to reach top pay within 1 year. For the MOU pay computation section, all regular runs or group reliefs are set up to work 5 consecutive workdays with 2 regular days off assigned. All operators are also guaranteed 8 hours of pay, which includes pre and post trip inspections or report and return in time 15 to 5 minutes respectively. Next slide. Golden Gate Transit bus operators receive substantial holiday benefits. There are 12 paid holidays, including a bus operator's birthday. Operators can request to have their birthdays off with 48 hours notice, or they may choose to work it and receive time and a half. If an operator works a holiday, they are paid differently depending on the type of operator, extra board operator or run operator. Extra board operators can earn their extra board average plus time and a half for actual time worked, and run operators can earn their run pay plus time and a half for actual time worked. An operator's extra board average is defined as the average daily pay for an extra board operator for the past year, not including overtime on scheduled days off. Adjustments do not count against operators' extra board average, and they are not penalized for missed time. The average of our current extra board operators' extra board average is $494, which is approximately equated to being paid for 13.5-hour spread, regardless of their drive time. Any run operators on approved paid time off are entitled to their run pay, which can usually exceed 8 hours of pay unless they have a bid mini day. This is a benefit in comparison to other transit agencies' pay formulas. Next slide. This next section will touch on Golden Gate Transit bus operator pay calculations and the many components it is comprised of. This is an example of what an operator recap looks like. This is beneficial to the operators because it provides them with detailed account of hours worked and pay earned for each pay component. Operator delays are a component that will increase a Golden Gate Transit bus operator's pay. Any traffic conditions, detours, incidents, or accidents that result in an operator to be delayed 15 minutes or more, or if the delay results in an operator's on-duty time to become greater than 8 hours, will result in a paid delay. Pre and post pre-trip inspection time is a paid 15 minutes that is included in runs for operators to prepare Golden Gate Transit buses for service. Post-trip inspection time is a paid 5 minutes for operators to verify that all passengers have disembarked at the final stop and secure any lost and found items. This slide outlines the non-driving activities that qualify for compensation for bus operators. It details administrative tasks like submitting incident and accident reports and maintaining driver's logs to track hours of service. Operators also earn a 1-hour pay premium for training new and existing operators in both non-revenue and revenue service. Furthermore, operators are compensated while on point, which is a term used to describe standby time for an operator at an operating division as they wait for assignments. These elements demonstrate that an operator's compensation package is comprehensive, covering all facets of their responsibilities. An operator's pay is generally comprised of 3 components: base pay, penalty pay, and overtime pay in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA. This table illustrates how each component is calculated and their respective formulas. What is to follow is an example of an operator's pay for a day. The benefit for Golden Gate Transit operators versus other transit agencies is that Golden Gate Transit pays the entire spread time minus up to 1 hour and 15 minutes versus split shifts with unpaid time. It's very complex, but very beneficial to drivers. This slide breaks down base time, which is comprised of platform time, report time, travel time, and paid non-order time. This is outlined in the MOU, and in this example, these hours are multiplied by the base rate of $35.57. This slide illustrates how the FLSA overtime is calculated. This applies to runs with more than 8 hours of on-duty time. In this example, the run has 8 hours and 18 minutes of on-duty time, which equates to a $6.44 of FLSA overtime. This slide illustrates how penalty pay is calculated, which applies to runs exceeding 10 3/4 hours of spread time. In this example, a run with 11 hours and 16 minutes of spread time results in 31 minutes of penalty time, equating to $9.19 in penalty pay. The $35.57 figure is not an accurate representation of the hourly rate because by dividing the total run pay of $371.92 by the on-duty hours of 8 hours and 18 minutes, the actual hourly rate is just under $45 an hour. I would like to also point out that in this example, while the operator is being paid their entire spread time of 11 hours and 16 minutes minus their lunch break, they only have a 7 hour and 11 minutes of actual drive time. Next is key statistics for 2023. This slide provides a 2023 salary comparison for frontline positions within the district, encompassing all operators, including part-time ones who are active during the year. It illustrates that operators can potentially earn as much as or more than an electrician or vessel master, with about 50% of bus operators making over $100,000 and the top earner earning $192,000. This slide, sourced from the State Controller's Office, provides a 2023 salary comparison among bus operators from Santa Rosa City Bus, SFMTA, Muni, and Golden Gate Transit, showing that Golden Gate Transit operators generally earn more despite a lower hourly pay rate. This demonstrates Golden Gate Transit's competitiveness attributed to its unique and complex pay formula. This slide provides a comparison between runbook costs and actual costs. Runbook costs generated in HASIS assumes a perfect schedule with no delays, traffic, accidents, or any operational challenges. Additionally, these costs do not account for the extra board. As you can see in the chart above, the cost of delivering the service is higher than the runbook cost in HASIS. It's about 1.5 times. And this data was pulled from a pay period 14 in June.
Hello there, I'm Siri. What can I do for you?
Sorry. It's never happened. I don't know.
Would please wait until the end.
Siri's crazy. Okay.
No worries.
Siri's having a bad day.
The final 2 slides provide the key terms and definitions mentioned in the presentation. This concludes my portion of the presentation. Deputy General Manager Les Belton will now present on the bus operators runbook sign-up process. Thank you. Sure.
Good morning, Vice Chair Parr and members of the Finance Committee. I am Les Belton, Deputy General Manager of the Bus Division. My slide presentation will provide you with an overview of the runbook process. The bidding process is conducted a minimum of 4 times a year with 2 additional bids in January and August to align with our regional service partners. Draft runbooks are advertised 4 Mondays prior to the change. Bidding takes place at the San Rafael Bus Transit headquarters. The final runbook is advertised 1 week prior to bidding. Bids are submitted electronically via BidWeb, and the ATU bid clerk verifies and represents absent or unsuccessful bidders. Staff posts the bid results in a designated area at all operating divisions and on the employee intranet. The district providing necessary support and reimbursing union representative wages for administering the bid. Next slide. The runbook is a comprehensive document that details scheduled service divided into weekly assignments known as runs, including days off and daily pay rates. Runbooks are kept in the driver's room, posted on the employee intranet, and regularly updated to reflect changes. The union receives 4 copies of the runbook at each sign-up, and the district will reconfigure proposed runs at the union's request, provided there is no additional impact on operations. Next slide. This is an example of a run sheet detailing a daily assignment, days off, spread time, driving time, on-duty time, unpaid break time, and the daily pay rate. The daily pay rates are categorized as follows: trainee rate, first 6 months, second 6 months, 1 year after training, and operators reach the top pay scale at GGT 1 year after completing their training, which is a major component of their financial growth. Next slide, please. Spread hours refer to the total elapsed time from the start to the end of a bus operator's workday, including all paid and unpaid breaks, measuring the entire length of the workday from sign on to sign off. This ensures adherence to labor laws and union agreements to prevent excessively long shifts, aiding in scheduling and managing operator shifts effectively for service reliability. It prevents operator fatigue by ensuring adequate rest periods between shifts, enhances punctuality and service reliability, and it helps in budgeting labor costs by optimizing shift patterns. GGT operators must have a minimum of 9 hours rest time between work days. Next slide. Extended hours may cause physical and mental fatigue, leading to errors and chronic health problems like sleep disorders and cardiovascular issues. Long hours in idle time can lead to frustration and higher turnover, affecting operational stability. Fatigued operators cause inconsistent service quality and higher training and recruitment costs. Fatigue increases accident risk. Ensuring rest is crucial for safety, and noncompliance with labor regulations can lead to regulatory findings. Our methodology aims to reduce excessive spread time, allowing our operators ample time to properly recover and promote an optimum work-to-life balance. We are all in agreement that operators require ample recovery time. Our philosophy is to reduce the spread time to allow operators more recovery time at home. Next slide, please. This slide represents the full-time spread comparison between June 2024 and August 2024 weekday signups. The median spread time was minimally reduced from 12.13 hours to 11.64 hours, resulting in a variance of approximately 30 minutes per run on weekdays. Next slide. Article 43 of the ATU MOU ensures bus operators receive adequate break periods during runs, including lunch breaks and turn times, to maintain efficiency and well-being. Lunch periods include a mandatory 30-minute break for general runs and a 45-minute break for runs with 8 or more hours of work time. Runs with 8 or more hours of work time will have at least one 15-minute turn time, also known as a layover, before and after the meal period, which equates to 30 minutes of paid non-driving time. This is another example of how GGT operators are provided adequate rest and recovery periods. This slide represents a detailed breakdown of run breaks comparing the data from June 2024 to August 2024, reflecting a realignment of run configuration to match our current regional service profile. This includes less peak commute service, reducing the need for excessive spread times. We were able to successfully optimize the 3 to 5 hour breaks, reducing their duration and reallocating this time to increase the number of runs with 3 or less hour breaks. The breaks in August 2024 signups surpass the 30 to 45 minute contractual obligation, providing operators adequate recovery time. Split breaks were minimized to improve the management of spread times, enhancing overall scheduling and efficiency. Next slide. As a result of right-sizing the spread time to match the service, we were able to redistribute the run pay in a more equitable fashion. This redistribution will assist the recruitment and retention of lower seniority operators. Next slide, please. Slides 62 and 63 note the changes applied in the August service change. It is important to note that we do not operate peak commute service on the weekend, which reduces the need for excessive spread time. In addition, as a benefit to the operators, we will reopen Division 2, located in Novato, in August, which will encompass 17 runs that have Saturday, Sunday, and holidays off. Next slide, please. Operators can work their days off, earning time and a half pay with a minimum of 8 hours guaranteed if they have worked the 5 scheduled days prior. Operators nearing the legal on-duty limit will only be dispatched if they have at least 4 hours of permissible on-duty time. Extra board drivers have priority of overtime work assignments. Run operators are used if the extra board is depleted. Run operators can work overtime before or after their runs, restricted to trippers. Operators with unscheduled absences during the week are not used for overtime until all others are exhausted. Regular operators are not required to do extra work except in emergencies. The last 2 slides represent key terms and definitions as described in the presentation. Thank you all. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much. That was quite comprehensive. Don't go away. General Manager Mulligan, do you have any comments before we open it up?
Yeah, so there's a lot of information there and there's a lot to study. And so, you may have questions not today, but tomorrow, the next day, or the next day. And so please know that staff is available to answer any and all your questions. The key takeaways is our hourly wage rate looks a little low compared to other operators, but we have a very, very complicated pay formula. And because that complicated pay formula, our drivers are well compensated when compared to sister agencies throughout the Bay Area or the country. And we have 2 examples that we picked just because some agencies are a little slow of submitting their 2023 data to the state controller's office. But fortunately for us, the 2 that bookend us, Santa Rosa and Muni, were submitted. And we pay more than Muni last year for our typical operator, in spite of Jeff Tumlin's, bragging at APTA. And I'm not sure that's something, something you should just be aware of. It's just factual that we compensate our bus operators well. And I guess the key takeaway is that be grateful that you're not the person that has to figure out and calculate payroll for this group of employees. But that, we've got the best bus operators around. We have the friendliest bus operators any place. We provide first-class customer service, and we compensate our employees well. Our commuters have gone away. Our service looks radically different today than it did before the pandemic. Today, only about half of our passengers cross the Golden Gate Bridge on a bus. And so our service looks different. And so it's prudent that we manage our limited resources to achieve our objectives of providing first-class service and providing good compensation so our employees want to work here. We have been hiring, and so our compensation package clearly appears to be competitive. Other transit operators recently have struggled to hire, and we're doing better than most. And so I just want to close by just reminding you that we have been living on one-time federal COVID relief money for several years now. We've been spending more money than we've been taking in. So your management team believes it's our job at Bridge, Bus, and Ferry to manage expenses to make our one-time federal COVID relief money last as long as possible. And with that, staff is able to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Are there questions, please? Maybe later, Mike. Director Theriault?
Yeah, I have some terminology questions, and I may follow at a later point with comments and further questions. But right now, I kept running into the term penalty time, and I think I understand it now that it's time that exceeds the 10 3/4 hours of spread time. Is that correct?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I kept reading this thing. I kept running into the term penalty time, and now I think I'm understanding that it's time in an operator's daily employment that exceeds the 10 to 3 hour quarter hours of spread time.
Correct.
Okay. What's an incident versus an accident? Make that distinction.
Accident.
I know what an accident is, but what's an incident that's not,
Incident can be a fair dispute on the bus,
okay. All right. Got it.
just for example.
And then I saw the term point time and the term XPD operators. What are those?
XBD is the extra board operator, and
Okay.
point time is the time that they sit waiting for assignments.
Gotcha.
If I may offer one thing, what is an extra board? We do not have a hiring hall with the ATU Local 1575. So if we have deckhand that calls in sick or gets in an accident or something, we call the IBU local and they send us employees, casual employees or temporary. And that's what we have here with the building trades at the bridge. If we need, a half dozen iron workers for 2 weeks to do a project, we call the hall, they send them out. So we don't have them for bus operators. So for bus operators, we hire extra staff that are on our payroll all year that are available when someone is sick or taking vacation or otherwise not available to work. And so we call them the extra board, but basically it's a bench of employees that are on our payroll because we don't share bus operators with other agencies like we share electricians, iron workers, or deckhands on ferry boats. So the bus business is unique among all the different businesses that you operate here at the Bridge District.
Director Fear.
Yes, I want to take a moment to thank Les and James for that wonderful presentation, James. I did have a question in the first part of the presentation regarding the bus operator compensation. It looks like the figures are based on 2023. So I just wanted to confirm that these figures do not incorporate any of the recent changes made that we are hearing about now.
So you saw sample calculations. Every bus driver several times a year bids new runs and their pay changes several times a year, at least 4 times a year. If you're a bus driver, your pay changes. So you look at what available works out there, you see what other people with higher seniority bid on, and you bid on stuff. And so there is less guaranteed overtime for the maximum earners as part of the August change. As Les highlighted, the average change is about a little over half hour. But so they have long days, and so a day where maybe today you're driving a couple of runs from Santa Rafael to Santa Rosa and you have a 6-hour break in the middle of the day where you're paid for that 6-hour break, that run may be going away in August, so you don't have as long a break. But you'll be bidding on something different. Some people bid the same shift all the time. Most people do not, or they cannot, because a more senior driver may bid their shift. And so it's something that is always changing. And what is a fact, though, is that there's a little less overtime for the peak earners guaranteed as part of the current run book for August. However, there's other opportunities for drivers to earn additional compensation if they want to make themselves available for additional work.
Okay, and then as a follow-up to my question, I was wanting to ask if we could see projected numbers after the changes. So basically, what would be helpful to see is bus operator compensation, but based on how it would look with the proposed changes in place versus 2023 numbers.
If I may, I can speak to the run book average, weekly average, June versus August. So even in June, nothing really changed.
Mm-hmm.
So you would still be reflective of the 2023 hours. In August, there was a slight change. So the June 2024 sign up, the average weekly hours paid out was 60.46. In August, the upcoming sign up, the average hours per week will be 58.45. So it's a minimal change, but it is a change.
So that's 58.45 as compared with what was the first?
50.46.
So it's about a 2-hour difference in weekly that goes into the pay formula, because the pay formula is incredibly complicated. Right. The key thing is every bus operator earns a different amount from their colleagues. You don't have very many bus operators that earn the same amount because they bid different shifts. They have different lengths of day and different lengths. Anyway, so it's complicated, but the key thing is they don't all earn the same amount. It varies and their pay changes several times a year when we have signups. But it is true that this next sign-up, the average number of hours that is available for guaranteed overtime for bus operators, it's going down slightly.
Thank you, Director Maston.
Yeah.
So I have several questions. So it seems like the original dispute came up around recovery time. And I saw it on page 51 in this under work time, but where does it fit into the wage calculations? Is it under something else?
That would,
Les, can you answer that?
yes, I mean, I think you're speaking to spread time. And what we did, so the excessive spread time that was built into the runs when I got here goes back, I don't know how long, but it's based on what the service used to be, which was almost 95% commuter service. We are not running 95% commuter service. We're basically running 95% regional service and 5% commuter service. So right sizing the service means you don't need all those excessive spread break times to run hourly regional service that you would with all those trips running back and forth from Santa Rosa to San Francisco. We reduced that down to, I believe it's 54 total trips that we do with that, and it was over 200, maybe in the 250 range prior to COVID. So that change, if I was here earlier, I might have seek to make that change a little earlier. So I know that was a question, as to why we're doing it now. Because I'm here, I have a different set of eyes, a different set of experiences. And that's one of the first things I looked at as my assessment. What the service is, what it needs to be, what the staffing needs to look like, and what the breaks and spread time need to be. Again, spread time is something, it's an antiquated process, but it's a huge benefit. I couldn't tell you another transit agency that has the benefit of running spread time, because I haven't heard of it till I got here. And I've been in this industry a long time, East Coast, West Coast, and everything in between. I've seen it. I've talked to leaders in the industry, a lot of my peers. So spread time is an amazing thing if you have it, and we have it here. So it's not basing what your hourly rate is based on an 8 to 9 to 10 hour day. With that complex pay formula, it's apples to oranges.
But if I may, so the question was about breaks, I think, right? So spread time's the length of the day. Breaks are on slides 60 and 61. So in the August sign up, 50 operators will have a break of 1 to 2 hours every day. 16 will have 2 to 3 hours. So you have significant breaks. There's only 7 out of 92 operators on weekdays that will have a break of 1 hour or less. And for those 7, it does comply with the contract. But everyone else has significantly greater breaks. Over half, basically about 80% of the operators have, a significantly longer break. So the breaks are still there. You can see the differences in breaks, though, on that slide. We heard that there was concerns about that. So slide 60 is weekday breaks, and slide 61 is weekend breaks. And so we are changing things a little bit. And that change in the length of the break changes the length of their day because it reduces the spread. So if someone had, a 5 hour break, or say someone had 4 to 5 hour break before, and now they have a 2 to 3 hour break, their day got shorter, the pay goes down a little bit, but they still have a 2 to 3 hour break in the middle of the day, where they're paid for those hours that they're on break, beyond the lunch break time that's in the contract in that rather complicated formula.
You have another question, Jim?
Yeah. So Dennis, you mentioned that we have had 21 new hires or something like that, and 8 in training.
Since Les came here in November, we've had 24 bus operators graduate from our training program to join us full time, and we have 8 currently in training that will graduate next month.
But we've also had some retirements and other separations.
Sure, but
what kind of net number?
I'd have to get you the exact number. I don't have it in front of me, but we are net up.
So I looked at since November, we've lost 16 operators, and we have 2 more that are retiring 1 August.
Okay.
And the operators can tend to slide in different categories, but we still count them. So right now, we currently have 14 operators that are inactive, but they still go on our roster count, our total rosters. But they're not paid, they're not in a paid status, they're not collecting benefits, they're just long-term active, maybe sick, and some other reasons.
Okay. So my last question is that when they get up to a year and they're 100% pay, do we have something approaching a full-time job for them?
All the new hires hired in the last few years are still with us. None of the new hires have left. Most people that leave the bus division leave as a retirement if they're a bus operator, or some of them promote out to other jobs at the district. So what Les has done with the August sign-up is actually make it more enticing for those new operators by giving them a longer spread and giving them a little longer break, albeit you could say that comes at the slight haircut to the more experienced operators or the most experienced operators. But so the newer operators will have a slightly longer day. Is that a fair assessment, Les?
That is absolutely correct.
So it spreads the wealth to the newer folks a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Those are great questions. Director Terrio?
Looks like I left this thing on all this time. Sorry about that.
As long as you weren't mumbling under your breath.
No. I'll speak right out loud when it's done.
Good.
I have a couple things. One is we saw different numbers from the union in terms of how many operators you've lost, how many operators you have gained recently. It was, I think, 30 you've lost and 29 you've gained. So there was a net loss of one operator. That was and then they hadn't included, but said that we would see the retirements that we're hearing about now, yet to come. One thing, if I by some chance had come from a background that involved dealing with tiered employment and management intentions with regard to tiered employment, and that might give me some suspicion with regard to management intentions, conscious or not. If you have a situation that is impacting those who are in a higher tier in such a way that they are leaving more and benefiting those in a lower tier in such a way that you are increasing their numbers proportionate to those in a higher tier. And the tier in this situation could be something as simple as the PEPRA applicability, where the lower tier of drivers, the more recent drivers, are PEPRA covered, and the longer term drivers are not. That could be interpreted by someone with that sort of a background, whoever that might be, as a management intent, conscious again or unconscious. I put that out there for consideration.
If you want, I can respond to that.
You may.
Your first point was was not on the email that you received from the union. I received it from Chair Parr as they walked in the room, so I haven't had a chance to look at it. So I'd have to respond to that later. But we have no nefarious intent with respect to what we're doing. What's changed is our service. We no longer have commuters. We used to do 24 Route 4s every morning out of Mill Valley. Director Stephanie Moulton-Peters used to be one of our loyal customers. And today we do 5, and I think we're adding one in August. So that'll get us up to 6. So we don't have the commute. So people used to do 2 Route 4s, have a long day, a long spread with many hours off midday because we didn't have a need. Well, today our service is mostly regional, and so we have buses running all the time. So it's an artificial construct that allowed those runs to exist like that because it doesn't mirror the needs of our customers. And one of the challenges we have is we have to strike a balance between the needs of our employees for a good paying job that's desirable and the needs of our ratepayers who are footing the bill. And right now we're providing service that costs more than the money we're taking in. And so it's prudent for us to look at how we can minimize expenses wherever we can at bridge, bus, and ferry. And so we have matched our service to better meet the type of service that our bus customers desire today.
And thank you for that. I will point out that someone with that particular background might point out that the the one explanation does not preclude the other.
Fair enough.
The other thing is that, as we've heard, there was a practice of decades, public employment parlance, that could be called a standard practice. That practice is being altered. That would generally trigger a requirement to meet and confer, as I understand it. Legal counsel will tell us. So there is that floating here also, and I wonder why we haven't heard about a meet and confer on this.
So I'll speak to that. The practice for decades is the practice of our customers. We provide service that meets the needs of our customers. We added about 4 trips decades ago because we had more customers. When the customers went away, we reduced them. And so our past practice is to provide service that meets the needs of our customers and put together packages of work that drivers bid on several times a year, at least 4 times a year, that complies with the terms of the MOU. If we're violating the MOU has conditions in there for someone to avail themselves of the legal process to smack us back into shape. But we are in full compliance with the MOU, and I'm not aware of any legal issue with what we're doing, which is what we've always done, which is change the work packages and the pay for bus drivers at least 4 times a year to meet the needs of our customers. It's unfortunate that our commute customers haven't come back yet. And there is some good news on the horizon. Salesforce says that come September or October, they're starting to check badge swipes as part of people's performance reviews, and they have to start coming back more days. And so those are things that we react to, but we don't have 24 Route 4s in the morning coming out of Mill Valley. That's what's changed. What's changed is the decades of our customers' behaviors. And then we don't hire bus drivers or ferry captains or bridge painters to not work. We hire them to meet the needs of our organization. So that's kind of what we're doing. And if the union feels otherwise, they have really excellent legal counsel that would advise them of the next steps to proceed with us.
I will watch that play out with interest.
Thank you, Director Theriault and General Manager Mulligan, for your reasoned conversation. How's that? Director Rodoni.
Thank you. I appreciate how complicated this discussion is, and the compensation policy is extremely complicated. One thing that would help me when we talk about total compensation, it would help me to have some common thread. Time at work, thread time in the seat, something that would show me how we're comparing with other agencies. Because I think to say our compensation is better than others, we don't really understand, or I don't understand, what the working conditions are on those particular agencies. So some common thread, and I don't know what that is because our policy is so complicated. How do you find a common thread? I'm not sure. It's a challenge for staff, but I think that would be helpful. And I guess I'm hearing so much has changed. Is it time to just renegotiate how the salary is actually done? And do we have to wait till the contract's open since there's so much controversy already in making these changes, or can we get to that sooner?
So the second comment's great, and anytime the union wants to talk to us, we're more than willing to talk to them. The pay formula is complicated. I think it'd be in the best interest of both parties to come up with a new formula based on kind of where we're at. And so, I talked to Shane before saying we should meet early this next cycle, give ourselves more time, because that is probably something we should do. With respect to your first point, the state controller's office doesn't show the length of the day, and our bus drivers put in long days. But what we can do is we can reach out to some of our sister agencies. We can have our HR department reach out to their HR department to find out how long a day people have on average, and we can get that for you. It may take a little while to get, but we'll bring that back because that's a very appropriate comment. Our bus drivers put in long days, and even if they have a 5-hour break in the middle of the day where they're paid for those 5 hours, we still kind of, they can't wander off and, go to Disneyland. They're still here. And so I think that's a very appropriate thing. So that's something we'll reach out and see what information we can get, and we'll bring that back.
Thank you. Director Judith.
Yeah. Thanks. So talking about the mental health, of the drivers, there's a lot of ways that you recover. So I'm just curious, you mentioned paid time off and vacation pay. tier one, tier two, so where do most of our bus operators fall? How much vacation time are the majority getting?
Well, there's the vacation time, and then there's also the attendance policy. And so the attendance policy is such that we have a very high unscheduled absenteeism rate. And so beyond just your vacation, people can drop sick. And our bus drivers MOU, unlike some of our other MOUs, does not prohibit you to be in an unpaid status. We have sought that in our last couple of negotiating rounds. That is not appropriate to be in an unpaid status. So people can call in sick. If we find out that they're not sick, we can discipline them. But barring that, people do call in sick because it is a hard job sometimes, and they may need a mental health day. And I'm not casting judgment when I say we are aware that happens, but we do have a very high unscheduled absenteeism rate, and maybe because we have long days, and shortening days may help that.
And what about vacations? Where do most of the drivers fall on vacations?
I don't know. We'll have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I definitely could get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have on the schedule Director Thier and Director Gabarino.
Great. Thank you so much again for the presentations and the responses. So I've made my opinions known. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I don't think this should be done. I think that this should wait until it can be till the next collective bargaining within the new contract. I'm going to respectfully ask the district to hold off. I know we don't have a vote today, but I believe that this is something that drastically affects wages and compensation, and it should not be done mid contract without meeting and conferring. And as I said in the last meeting on this subject, and I will apologize because the emails that I received and a lot of the correspondence on this issue, I just flew back from Italy late last night. So I literally got it right before I came into this meeting. But what is consistent is that this is something that our drivers are very concerned about. They're very upset about. And that right there tells me that, hey, this is a major change. Now, there was an email that I also just received from Shane Weinstein, and it says there's an $815,000 reduction, that this is a major reduction, and that there's going to be $850,000 cost savings. As Director Terrio pointed out, there also were different numbers with respect to how many drivers have left, how many have come. And also, when I received this letter this morning, the public correspondence from, it looks like Andrew Sholin, who said, who's an operator with us, who said that this structure was negotiated in an initial collective bargaining in 1972. So again, I would ask the district to please hold off on this. I have been someone who has spoken very strongly about, working closely with our unions and our employees and having favorable relations. But I do think this affects compensation, and I think we need to wait. And sometimes even if legally or by contract you can do something, it's not always the right idea to just do it. So I know that that's not the opinion of our director, Dennis, and I respect you, but I really think that this should be something that we should hold off on until negotiations, or negotiate right away.
So I acknowledge that the director representing the council members and mayors of Marin County would desire for us to maintain the higher level of guaranteed overtime and penalty pay. But our concern is that we're spending money we don't have. And while some decisions may be difficult, other decisions, as we know from the early and darkest days of the pandemic, are much, much more gut-wrenching for an organization. And so my job is to do whatever I can so you're never faced with having to make a decision on layoffs. And so we're taking in less money than we're spending. And unless Marin County wants to give us some other transportation sales tax measure money, which we don't receive any of, and by Measure A, we're eligible. It did say regional in the ballot proposition. Unless you're willing to give us money, I'm trying to protect you from a future date where staff may have to come to you to say, hey, we need to reduce the size of the organization in an unpleasant fashion. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. So yes, we have been, in the 2022-23 fiscal year, we spent less money than we did before the pandemic. Last fiscal year, we may have spent less money than we did before the pandemic. We have reduced expenses tremendously. I am guilty as charged. And I'm doing that because I feel I'm trying to strike a balance between the needs of our ratepayers and our employees. And I don't want to ever have to go through a discussion like we did in the darkest days of the pandemic, where we talked about, issuing layoff notices to employees. So if we don't reduce our expenses, and if we don't get more money in the door from our friends, from your Measure A money in Marin County, then you're getting yourself out onto a slippery slope where you're getting closer to tough decisions that I don't think, Director, you would ever want to have to face.
I was going to say at least half of us around the table were here during the days when we were issuing layoff notices, and that wasn't our finest hour. And we did it for exactly the reasons that Dennis talked about. We felt like we did it with as much heart as you can when you're issuing layoff notices. I think most of us have done that before. So
Yeah, I just had a follow-up, if I may.
sure.
So what we're talking about here is a reduction, a decrease, a substantial cut in operator break time. So let me finish. So my comments are related to the safety of our drivers and maintaining our good safety record. In addition, I do believe there's other areas to cut in the budget. I don't think this is the one to cut. I also think if you want to cut, you need to negotiate. So I want to clarify, because you had indicated that, I was in favor of the guaranteed overtime and penalty pay. And, at this moment, what we're talking about is reduction in break time, which is a huge safety issue. And, I respect that we have a different opinion, but, I think it's really, really important to look at how we move forward with our employees and how we make sure everyone feels heard and respected. And, I'm not, what you see is what you get with me. I'm not good at sugarcoating stuff. And, we have a difference of opinion, but I'm hopeful that this is a situation where we can hopefully, meet and confer right away and come to a resolution.
So slides 60 and 61 show you the break times before and after, the ones we have today and the ones we'll have with the August sign up. So I encourage you all to look at that. So we do provide breaks to our employees. And so it's clearly detailed. It's just actually presented to you. And so you can see how many drivers currently and after will have breaks that are 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours. Where there is a reduction in the spread time, it's reducing some of those larger breaks, particularly the 3 to 4 hour breaks. So drivers today that have a 3 to 4 hour break today may be bidding a shift that has a 2 to 3 hour break in August. And so, 2 to 3 hour break is still adequate. And so if you look at the chart, you can see how it rolls through the workforce based on seniority. But we are still providing breaks that almost, for the most part, exceed the minimums required by the contract by quite a bit. And those are paid breaks, unlike many organizations. When you have that, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 hour break, you are paid your base hourly wage rate for that. And plus, if your spread time gets longer than the number Director Theriault mentioned, the 10 and whatever 3/4 or whatever the number was, then you get paid extra on top of that. And so we are still providing breaks, but there is a category of breaks that is shrinking, and that's the 3 to 4 hour, and then the 4 to 5 hour break category is also shrinking. And so those breaks are spread out elsewhere within the available runs for people to bid on.
Thank you for that, Director Garbarino.
Thank you, Barb. And thank you for your comment earlier. Even though it was 4 years ago, it was horrific. It was truly those of us that were here and making those votes. It was a nightmare and many, many, many sleepless nights. My comments are really just observations, just sort of a thread of what I've heard from almost all of you. Those of us that are lucky enough to travel in the summer, I'm sure have noticed that everything has changed. Everything from mom and pops to Salesforce are completely different. Their financial base, their revenue is different. If we're being honest with ourselves, many of them are closing and people are losing their jobs. What COVID did is just that. And COVID has given us also a great deal of angst and anxiety about the need to come forward and reinvent ourselves and take a look at what is happening. What strikes me is that we just don't have that commuter base that we used to have. And now we're 2 years, although people are still getting COVID, 2 years post-COVID, and the numbers are still depressed quite a bit. So I guess my comment is this is a time for us to take a look at honestly, and we will do that honestly. And I believe that all of what we talk about at this table, inside this room and outside, is with honesty and sincerity, is to take a look at almost reinventing ourselves. I take your comment about spread time to heart as well, that it doesn't exist elsewhere. It needed to exist, obviously, at one time, or this good district never would have put it into play.
Right.
So with that, I just think this is a time to take a relook at what's going on in light of the fact that those toll payers out there are also suffering and no longer able to go to their mom and pops, their small businesses or their large ones without significant changes. And I also apologize. I have to go back to the garbage company for a meeting there with my Teamster group. So I thank you all for listening, but this is a time for us to put all of your good minds together to reinvent the systems that we've had in place because the bad times are coming.
Director Maston would like to say something, but before he says something, I'd like to just give you a little opinion. It feels a little bit like we're moving into negotiating, and I don't think that's the purpose of this particular committee. The agenda item was that we were to gather information, which we asked for, and I think the feedback has been great. But I think we need to be careful, and I think unless there's something compelling that I'll designate Jim as our last board comment, because I know we do have, and Sabrina, did you want, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see your, we want to give everyone an opportunity to speak, so if you haven't spoken, please do, please tell me. But I know we have a number of public that want to speak. Jim.
Yeah, these won't be negotiating type items.
And
one
that's
is
just
a
my
term
take.
clarification on page 36. It says, it mentions a hold down operator. That sounds pretty serious. What's that?
You said a hold down operator?
Yeah.
A hold down operator. So if you're on the extra board, if you're on the extra board, you have no assignment. However, someone who, let's say, is out on vacation for 3 weeks, as an extra board operator, you can bid that run as a hold down for 3 weeks and have that run for 3 weeks. Once the original operator comes back, you would go back to the extra board and float around, or you can bid again if you.
Okay, thank you. And the other comment is, I forgot to thank you for the presentation. I'm sure it was a lot of work and helped clarify a number of things, probably for all of us. And again, I want to thank staff for your work.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you as well. And I do have the number. The average number of vacation days is 17.
Thank you.
And I apologize to the group. My scribe does have another name, Director Snyder. So we'll do Director Hernandez and Director Snyder. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First, I want to say thank you very much to our DGM bus for being here today. I think this is your most lengthy presentation to the board or to committee at the board so far. Appreciate you being here and understand that there are huge benefits to having new eyes, and that it's you're in a unique position in that your new eyes, are prompting change. We all want the best for the district. We all want to stay fiscally sound. We all want our employees to be healthy. Those are givens. Your new eyes have presented, as I said, change, and change is not easy. Also want to recognize Jameis. Thank you for being here. I think this is the first time you've given a presentation and said something that you've been asked to be here at the board with us. So congratulations and thank you very much for the report, and hope to see you again in the future. I guess, and with respect to the chairperson's comment, I don't want to say anything that, that moves us into the realm of negotiation.
I trust you.
Thank you. But I'm just going to say a couple of things in general. Yesterday, I was approached by a bus operator who was in tears over some of the changes that are being presented. And on the other side of that, I recognize, Dennis's very clear and direct comments about the straits that we're in and what's required in terms of a response for fiscal stability. I'm going to suggest that there might be something missing in our mechanism or in our standards of protocol and operation when it comes to making these big changes. And I don't believe that calling the attorneys in is the thing that we should automatically jump to. I just want to say that our relationship with our employees is really important. They care about their jobs. They do a great job. They work very hard on a daily basis to make sure that the people that use our services are safe and get where they need to go. They also have families that they need to take care of. And it's our responsibility as the district to make sure that mechanisms are in place to be able to share information, be transparent, have communication, dialogue about things. And I just hope that we're keeping that top of mind as well. I appreciate Director Rodoni's comments about, well, maybe we need to just look at the whole system top down. And maybe we need to revamp everything that we've been doing. Maybe what we're doing now doesn't fit in terms of this very complicated, pay system. Maybe it needs a little tweaking. Maybe it needs to be tossed out. I don't have the answers to that. I'm not involved in those conversations. I barely, followed with the presentation today. It was so complex, so much terminology, and it is a very, very complicated system. I'm going to have to spend a lot more time looking at this document.
I think we're all glad to hear you say that. I couldn't even get the definitions straight. I was going like,
it definitely requires a lot more time and attention than just the few moments that we've had the opportunity to sit with you here. I also will be looking at the information that came to me from the union. I also have not had an opportunity to really look at that as well. I'm very interested in seeing that information and understanding it a little better. So I might have more comments tomorrow once I've been able to absorb some of this a little more, if I can find some time today. But I do want to express at least my concern that there may be some lapse in communication, that maybe we need to focus on more mechanisms where there is communication. This system where we have 4 signups per year. I understand that people are probably aware that happens, but when there are drastic changes from one quarter of the year to the next, perhaps we need to have, some mechanism where there's a opportunity for communication or dialogue before those drastic changes happen, instead of, folks showing up at the reporting station where they see the new signups and all of a sudden, their lives are drastically changed and they're having to make, huge economic decisions about, what they're going to do to make ends meet or to meet the requirements of their personal budgets. I just want to put that out. So I hope that moving forward we can not forget about the importance of that level of communication. It is certainly important and necessary for us to make difficult decisions sometimes, but we have to make them with a level of care and with a level of communication that avails those who are experiencing the consequences of those decisions, with an opportunity to understand and be part of the process to discuss how things happen. All right, that's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If I may, I'd like to thank Director Hernandez for her comments.
Yes.
Very much so, very thoughtful and lots to reflect on. I do want to be clear, Les communicates with Shane all the time. And so we didn't surprise anybody. There's been lots of conversations. Les has been out there talking to a lot of the operators. And I would also, so there has been lots of communication. The problem is sometimes when there's lots of communication, you hear something you don't like, you're hearing it, but you can't change the outcome necessarily because there's other forces that are coming into play. And I would also like to say for the record, this is not the biggest change we've done for our bus drivers. We did much, much bigger changes during the pandemic and in the early days of the pandemic where we changed the run book. So we have a past practice of reacting to changing ridership with our run book and how we put together packages of work, the amount of hours and the lengths of the days. And so this is much, much smaller compared to what we did then, which is very fortunate. But I just wanted to say that for the record, that there is a past practice of changing the run book based on ridership, and it's been much, much more significant at a couple times in the past. But thank you for the comments. It was very thoughtful and a lot for us to reflect on.
Thank you. Director Snyder.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Les, James. That was a wonderful presentation, and it's a completely different nomenclature for me. I've done labor negotiations, and it's a whole different language, so a lot of good information. I guess, and my question may be more to Dennis than anything else, because we have the whole, we have this awesome responsibility to the district, and to Sabrina's point on that communication and everything. But coming from the perspective of, kind of tasked with the fiduciary stuff of the pension side of things too, that whole, is it $800,000 reduction?
I have no idea where Shane got his number. That's his number, not our number. So
number that's
we'll calculate a number in terms of payroll. Les, you may know it. I don't know it off the top of my head in terms of what we think the savings might be.
I think the one of the key elements from June to August. June, we were still putting together a run book based on 240 operators. So all that was included in that. In August, we are putting together a run book for 188 operators. So that's where you're going to see some differences.
Okay.
We've been looking at this from day one that I got here, and how we can have the least impact, but as Dennis said, keep us from moving towards layoffs.
But as to the pension question, and Director Theriault alluded to this about subconsciously, am I doing something?
The question is that all pensionable, right?
So the highest operator in 2023 made $192,000. If someone worked making $90,000 to $100,000 for 10 years, 20 years, and then all of a sudden they worked 1 year, $192,000, and they retire based on $192,000, that's bad for your job as a pension trustee. So if I reduce the opportunity for someone this year to make $192,000, I'm helping you tremendously in your role as a trustee of the ATU pension. Right. So the biggest impact on the pension is if drivers have the opportunity to spike in a single year, because that pension trust does allow spiking. And so removing that $192,000 opportunity is something that I believe is beneficial to the pension, and that would more than offset whatever the slight decrease in total compensation that may be coming forward. Plus, I think this board knows that at a future date, staff will be coming to you after the Buck study's done saying, we need to put a lot more money in this pension. And so I'd like to remind the board of that.
Which is the part of the ask that question is because we're actually putting the models together right now. Yeah. And I just want to make sure we have accurate, wage data and
we'll be providing data to Buck.
So when we do bring something back to the board, it's accurate, not based on something that.
Correct. And it should be based on what our payroll has, not a calculation done by someone such as Shane. He's a very smart man, but it should be our payroll data. So we have an internal meeting next week to gather information that we'll be sending to Buck.
Okay.
So they can see that. Okay. And we actually encourage Buck to listen in on today's presentation.
Okay, good. So that number we don't, I hear 600,000. So.
I have no idea what the source is. If Shane could share his calculation, we'll review it. We could have our finance folks sit down with our bus staff. And one of the slides that James presented showed the cost of the run book as scheduled versus the actual, because people can drop, they can call in sick. And you may recall and go back to that slide when you study this later to see what the calculated run book is and what we end up paying are radically different, and it's always a lot more. So that was a useful slide. There's a lot of information buried there. And so that's why I encourage you to kind of sift through it and then come back to us with follow-up questions in the coming days and weeks.
So, well, we should have an accurate estimation of the.
We can put together an estimate, but the estimate is contingent upon certain assumptions. And so, you'll know what you will do an estimate. We can share that with you. And then at the end of that 3-month period or 4-month period, whatever it is, we can come back to you and say, this is what it actually costs. We can give you weekly payroll data or biweekly payroll data if that's of interest.
So just a little aside, when I was supervising principals, I used to tell them when they came to me and had made a mistake with parents, you need to learn to eat crow gracefully. I'm going to eat crow gracefully, and Director Grossbow would like to have a second. He told me he would be clear.
I just noticed on page 47 of the district's paper is that only 49% of the operators make over 100,000.
Yeah.
And the average salary is 89,000, which out of the 7 categories is the 5th lowest. So I just don't want people thinking, based on this conversation today, that everybody's making that kind of money. According to Shane, and I think he says in his memo, I think there's 19 people making over, 19 operators making over 150,000. So it's not like everybody's making 190 or even 160. So, I mean, for me, the main issue that's troubling, it would be in any category, is that these are the only, some of our most senior drivers, it looks like, are the only ones who are going to take a pay cut this year. And that's why I think many of us are troubled. So, but anyway.
All right, thank you. I'd like to also report my scribe has indicated that Anne Marie Conroy is listening on the public line. She isn't interested in speaking, but just so that you know, she has the information, the questions, and the answers. I think that's important as a board member. Now Director Moulton Peters is going to make me.
Thank you. I have a question. It's more operations oriented, but and could be answered tomorrow. But before I do, I just want to express, a commitment to partnership and working through the issues together with the union and the management. I think that's the way to go. My operations question reflects the fact that the changes we're being asked to make on October 20th this is a significant change, if I'm not mistaken, Dennis, and please correct me, but this is when all transit agencies in the Bay Area are trying to get on the same page with their scheduled changes, which has not been the case before. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, so August and January is when Bay Area transit agencies are trying to do all the service changes. Not everyone's on board yet,
right?
But we are, and all the North Bay operators are. And so we made changes back in January to coincide with BART on our 580 service. And this sign up, we're doing schedule changes on the 130 and 150 at the request of Marin Transit. We changed our 101 schedule at the request of SMART. And as part of this, we are adding service. We're adding a Route 114 trip, a Route 132 trip, and 172X trip, which are commute routes. We're adding a little extra 101 service based on slight increases in ridership. But we are coordinated with the goal of the region to do significant changes in August and January.
Yeah. So then, Dennis, my question is that if we choose to not make a decision tomorrow on this matter, if that should happen, would that also affect these coordinated changes we're trying to make?
Well, the bid's going to happen regardless. So the sign up change is happening and the schedule change. Our collective bargaining agreement gives us the ability to do multiple signups. So if we wanted to, we could immediately roll and start doing another sign up. But that sign up is going to happen. The question is, how long does it last? The contract has 4 days that we have to do it during the year, and then we have the latitude to do them more frequently. So if the board said that, we think management's crazy and that you're not doing your job well, and we want you to come back and do another sign up that adds back those long days for some operators, certainly you could provide that direction to staff. There's no decision in front of you today. We're doing this change. You can redo the sign up without changing your schedules. You have the bus schedules that automatically drives changes, but how you package the work, there is latitude. And this time we use that latitude, recognizing we don't have much commute, to reduce some of the lengths of some of the days.
Okay.
But it is tied, this sign up in August, to our customer demands for our service.
Yeah.
And that's the point I wanted to underscore for my colleagues is this, as you probably know, is the beginning of an effort to coordinate Bay Area service for our riders. Just the same schedule days. We haven't had that, and we've left riders disconnected with the other transit agencies because we don't change when they do. So I just want to appreciate the effort to move in this direction in North Bay. And that's also part of what's happening here. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're finally ready for public comment. Are there people on the line that would like to speak or people in the room? I think Shane, do you want to go first?
You'd like me to?
Sure, come on up. Shane Weinstein has submitted a card. What that means, Les, is that you and Jameis will have to share your end of the table.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good morning, board. Shane Weinstein, president of ATU. I represent all the bus operators. I hope you're ready for the test that's going to come on that pay formula. There were a couple things in there that I didn't even understand after 14 years. It's somewhat hard to believe. I am glad now that you do have a little understanding of what that pay formula is, and the reason is because that's what keeps us competitive with every other Bay Area agency. What you're seeing here and what you're hearing is the fact that they're taking break time away. What you're not hearing here is that we're working less. Our butts are going to be in the seat more. We're going to be driving more. Our days are just going to be shortened. So when they say we're going to take your recovery time away, they're saying you need to go home and do recovery time, but you're still going to work harder today. Miles are up, pay is down. Hours working is up, pay is down. That doesn't make sense. And the reason that that happens is because we're still spending the time behind the wheel driving, but our day is getting shortened, taking our breaks away. So if we do think that it's safer to drive more and recover less at work, then Mr. Mulligan's correct. But the way that it has been for decades, and now all of a sudden it's getting changed. For decades, it's been this way. And in the middle of a contract, we're changing the way that we've completely operated from a commute-based system to a regional service with no discussion with the union. I'm sorry, but there was discussion afterwards at a regularly scheduled meeting that said this is the way it was going to be, and then we started discussing it. That's how it went. I want to touch on the fact about spiking all of these things that he's saying. That Mr. Mulligan is saying, 40% of our membership can't even spike whatsoever. It's by California law, PEPRA, they cannot spike. So we're talking about 60% of our membership that's left. And that's a moving target, as you know, because we have 3 people that are retiring as of September 1st, which is going to put us in the negative. And let me clarify really quickly. Since January of 2023 we have seen 30 people hired and 29 people leave. On September 1st, we're going to be -2. We're +1 right now from January of 2023. We don't have any extra operators. The same amount of operators in March 2023 are the same amount that we have today. Okay? This is a massive, massive pay cut. The way that I got 815,000 is not being smart. It's actually just taking what we lost in scheduled service from June to August. It's very easy. That's not the difficult part. But what was going on, and I need everyone to just understand this, over time, the reason why we made the amount of money that we did with Muni was because we were forced to do overtime because we were so low staffed. We've had no growth. They worked their tails off. And now they're kind of coming back. And
Shane, would you wrap it up, please?
I sure will.
Thank you.
I have a public comment to make. I look forward to doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there more people waiting for public comment?
Yes, I believe so. I'm going to switch it over to Justine. Can you go ahead and take over the public comment line on your end?
Certainly I can. We do have one speaker that I'm aware of, and if you don't mind, I'd like to poll when that speaker has completed, if that's okay with everybody.
Certainly.
Our first speaker Thank you. Our first speaker is Brenda Shepard. Brenda, please go ahead.
Good morning, Brenda. Go ahead, Brenda.
Brenda, you'll need to unmute yourself and please speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can.
we
Go
can.
ahead.
Okay, good morning. I am a Golden Gate bus operator, also the bid clerk for people to bid, the drivers to bid every time we're supposed to bid. And there's a few things I want to tell you that it's the first page drivers all the way to the 6th page drivers. You guys are not giving us break times. Mulligan is saying that we're getting, the average is getting 2 to 3 hours. That's not the case. And people are, this month, let's see, for the August shakeup, people are losing hundreds of dollars, $100 a day. And to let you know, I just had, I'm on the extra board also. I did a run that started at 4:43 in the morning. It ended at 2:35. That's called a mini day. Within all that time, I only get a 1 hour break. I don't get an hour, 15-minute break. And it's legal. And they're talking about, there's one block, there's a 2 blockers, a 1 block that maybe gets maybe 10 to 15 minutes. That's from the hours of 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning, which is commute hours, which is rush hour, which I don't see that at the end of my route. And I can't make that as overtime because they just say I can only do my hour lunch period overtime. Second of all, you guys were talking about vacation. That's a district thing. That's not just a bus driver thing. And then you were talking about all the drivers getting paid a lot of money. So you're talking about a handful of drivers that work 7 days a week. All of us can't do that. And then you were talking about the new drivers. I understand we have to have new drivers, but between the old drivers and the new drivers, when we first came on, if we get an occurrence, we were fired, even on our probation period. There's several of them that have occurrences, but you know what? New Eyes, Les says that, oh, we got to keep them no matter what. It's because of the funding. I understand that. And me bidding for these people, I even have the lower people saying these last 5 that are runs 50 through something, they get paid really less. I got people crying, the new people crying, saying they don't have a choice and they can't make it. So, I mean, with the pay, let alone all the driving time and stuff. So I don't know where you guys are talking about. We as bus drivers need that spread time. So that is what I wanted to say. And if you think saying yes to give the managers a raise and us bus drivers be happy about that and you cutting us down, I am telling you, you are looking at a disaster. So even Dennis Moe can say, oh, we need to shorten money. We don't have the money. Well, you don't have the money to give the damn managers no
Brenda,
raise
your
either.
time is up, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to pull the room if that's okay with you, Chair Parra. If you'd like to speak at the meeting this morning, please use ** to unmute yourself and give me your name.
Hello, Casey Sweeney.
Good
Hi,
morning.
can I have your name, please? Hi. I'm just polling at the moment. Can you give me your name, please?
Casey Sweeney, bus operator.
Thank you, Casey. Just give me one moment, please. Is there anybody else that's joined us that would like to speak this morning? I'm just taking names down right now. Please use ** to unmute yourself and let me know if you'd like to speak. Again, if you'd like to speak this morning, you'll need to press ** on your device and let me know that you'd like to speak.
Norberto Chavez.
Thank you, Norberto. Just give me one moment. Is there anybody else that's joined us that would like to speak? Please use ** to unmute yourself and let me know. Once we've spoken, please keep your device on mute until you're called. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak this morning? Before I finalize the list, please use ** to unmute yourself and let me know. Hey, Chair Parr, so our next speaker is Casey Sweeney.
Thank you. Good morning, Casey. You have 3 minutes, please, to address us.
Hello, my name is Casey Sweeney, bus operator, mentor, also part of the Run Book. I just want everybody to know that our job is a lifestyle that Golden Gate has created for us. It's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. We went from changing 4 times a year with all of the shakeups to now we're doing it 8 to 9 times a year. So it's hard for our families to try to get time with us if every other week, every other month is changing. Yes, I do understand the process. We are driving more, like they said already, with less breaks. But and like I said also, our top earners are top earners for a reason, because Golden Gate Transit needs people to come in there and drive when people are not there. If other companies' pay rate was like ours, they'd make way more than us. But we work long days, and I do not complain about it. I come to work with a smile. I've been trying to keep everybody happy around the job and keep good vibes, but sometimes it's hard. I just want to let everybody know that I had to say something. Not a good speaker, but I wanted to make sure I put that on your mind, that our job is a lifestyle Golden Gate Transit created. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Casey.
Our next speaker is Norberto Chavez. Norberto, go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for taking my time. Can you hear me?
We can. Go ahead.
First of all, one of the things that I feel very unfair about this situation is that we're being asked to take a pay cut and at a time where there's no negotiations going on. I would like to ask anybody that has been making a certain amount for the last 10 or 15 years based on their progression at their work, so all of a sudden be told, you know what, you're going to be doing more work, and now suddenly you're going to be making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 more. I am currently going to be doing a run that's going to be paying approximately $430 a day. I am currently in a run that's paying $480 a day. If this happens to be the case, I would be losing $50 roughly per day. Now, the drivers are making substantial money than other agencies, but at the same time, we were always told, and this is why we came to Golden Gate, because Golden Gate had an opportunity for those that are hardworking, that have life-asking decisions, to have the mom stay at home with the kids and such, or any sort of sacrifice that you're willing to make, that you can come and work here, that you can do your day off and everything else, but there's a price to pay. You're away from home, but you're choosing to do that in order for the wife to stay home, for them to be with, or for your kids to be with a loved one. Casey mentioned about all these shakeups that are changing. We go sometimes from having to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. The next shakeup, we have to come in at 7 in the morning. So all these drastic changes are also not by choice, because Dennis Mulligan also said that every shakeup to shakeup, every driver chooses or has an option to make, ends up making different money because every shakeup's differently. Well, that's not by our choice. That's because the district is unwilling to make any sort of run books that are consistent month after month. When I first came here, a lot of those run books were more consistent. The senior drivers could almost always know what time they were going to come to work and what time they were going to get off work. Even if they chose a different run number, it might be slightly different, but a lot of the work, the breaks, the days off were consistent for the most part. That is not the case anymore. Right now, I am on page 2, middle of page 2, 30 per page. And every shakeup to shakeup, I don't even know if I'm going to have the ability to have weekends off to spend with my family. So there's a lot of different changes that are being thrown up. But the biggest thing is, if nothing else, this should be done during a negotiation period. When the district negotiated with the union, it was an understanding that long days were part of this whole situation. That's why we took less money per hour than everybody else in the area, because it was kind of a given that, okay, you're going to be here 12 hours versus 8 hours somewhere else, but in the long run, you're going to end up making roughly about the same amount of money. But the great thing about you was that...
Could you please wind up your comments? Thank you very much.
Sure. I mean, the main thing is that I don't think is that it's fair that we are seeing a pay cut during a non-negotiation period. We have no ability to fight back in this regard.
Thank you.
And it's
Thank you for
affecting.
sharing that with us.
Thank you.
All right, do we have more public comment?
We do not have any additional public comment.
Yes, I would like to comment.
Oh, apparently we have someone who unmuted. May I have your name, please? May I have your name, please? It seems that person has left the line, Chair Parr.
All right, are you sure they didn't just reverse mute? And they were on and
Absolutely, I'll give them another opportunity.
All right, I hate to have people not be able to speak.
If you do have, I think that person is back on. Please use ** to unmute yourself and give me your name. I believe you were trying to give public comment. If you can please use ** on your device and give me your name. Hello.
Yes, hello. Yes.
Hi, may I have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Leon Thomason.
Thank you, Leon. Go ahead, Leon.
I just wanted to say I've been an employee of the district since 2010. I worked 2 years at the bridge, and the last going on 11 years, I've been a bus operator. I just wanted to say they're not mentioning that the fact that they are shortening our runs, but they're also adding more work and taking away more breaks. The thing that hurts me, I'm a single parent of 2 teenage daughters. I have a mom that's 81 years old that I take care of. It takes me an hour to get to work in the morning. Sometimes in the evening, it could take me up to 2 hours to get home. If I don't have an adequate break, a lot of us operators get our rest on our breaks because the turnaround time for a bus operator is not a lot. You can imagine getting off at 6 p.m., getting home at 8 p.m., and having to get up at 3:30 a.m. to make it to work. So sometimes that mental health is a lot. And we also deal with things like I'm constantly getting phone calls from my mom's doctor. There was times when our former director, Rich Hibbs, would have to give me time off in the middle of the day because as an operator, you can't answer your phone when the school's calling you and your child needs to be picked up. This gives me great anxiety to know that next shakeup, I can literally be working 6 hours with only an hour. I work 4 hours in the morning, an hour and a 15-minute break in the mid part, and 6 hours from 1 to 6 p.m. I look 5 hours with not even adequate time to relieve yourself. You would be floored to understand some of the measures the drivers have to go to just to relieve themselves. So you mean to tell me an hour and 15-minute break for 10 hours of work is not enough? And sometimes you get a little 10-minute break at the end of the line, but if you're behind schedule, which usually during commute hours, you're never on time, that break is gone. So this weighs on me heavy and is giving me anxiety to know that I don't see my family enough as it is. But you cutting breaks is really taking our livelihood, not to mention adding more work for less money. That's criminal. But thank you guys. I just want to say that because it was bothering me if I didn't speak up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thomason. Justine, do we have another speaker?
Chair Parr, I believe that those are all the speakers that we have this morning. If you'd like me to re-poll again, I can.
Probably.
You'd like me to?
Amrit has one other name here. That's why I keep asking.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, all right.
Do you want me to re-poll? Would you like me to re-poll?
That's all right. You've re-polled 2 or 3 times and given them an opportunity. Thank you for your help with that, Justine. With that, I think we'll close the item. Thank you to Les and to Jameis. Thank you for all of you for your comments. I made myself a little note here that it's pretty clear that we all take our positions as policymakers very seriously, and that we also take what we ask of our managers and our employees very seriously too. So it was a good discussion. Tomorrow there is no action on this item because today was really just a presentation. So it will come back, I'm sure, at some point when one of the committees asks for it. I assume that this is the appropriate committee, but it might come back at rules. Who knows? We'll talk about where you want it to come back. Yes, Michael.
Madam Chair, I think we might exercise the prerogative of bringing it up during the director's report, the general manager's report, excuse me, because this could reasonably be considered a part of his report or a subject he can report on it. So if we have additional things to bring up at that point, I would hope we would be welcome to do so. Certainly.
All right, moving on. That concludes our discussion on item 6. There's no action associated with it. Let's move on to item 7, which is the status report on the fiscal year 2023-24 budget. And Jennifer, you've been waiting a while. Would you like to present this to us?
I know you guys have had a long meeting, so I'll keep it short.
We appreciate that.
This item 7 is the status on the budget, and as you know, we finished our fiscal year. So you will see actually some good news in here. If you look at the last, if you look on page 69, there at the bottom of the box, it says 4.4 million. That means that you, on paper, are 4.4 in the positive, in the black. However, and I'll talk about this in the next item or so, that 10 million of that is what we consider, because of, you've heard from Monique today, the investment income did well. And when you do the valuation, depending when you do it, we made $20 million on the valuation, but that's on paper, doesn't mean it's on the bank. So really you are 5.5 million under in the reds, in the negative. So just wanted to point that out, but all good news, definitely much better than what we projected from the budget. Happy to take any questions on the status item. Have any?
Are there any questions on the budget status? Hearing none, there's no action associated with that. So let's move on to item 8, which is also Jennifer, the monthly review of the Golden Gate Bridge traffic tolls and bus and ferry transit patronage fares, as well as 9A, the monthly statement of revenues and expenses, and 9B, the monthly statement of capital programs and expenditures. Jennifer, they're yours.
I will just keep it short again, but it is the year end, so wanted to just report out how we kind of ended up on our first close. As the general manager had reported earlier, the traffic for both the traffic, bus, and ferry have all been up at the end of the year. Bridge is flattening out with a little about 2.4% for the year, but 388,000 more. Bus has gone up 9.5%, and ferry's gone up 23%. So we are all projecting up. Revenue has also followed that growth as well. Happy to do any details on that if you'd like, but we keep chugging along to see if we can get pre-pandemic.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions or comments on any of those items from Jennifer? If not, that concludes our discussion. Before we move on, Madam Secretary, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to us on these items?
We have no, excuse me, we have no speakers on these items.
Okay, thank you. There are no actions required for those items, so we'll continue to item 10, which is the fourth quarterly report of judgments and settled claims. And we apologize, Kelly Vitale, for how many hours you've been back there waiting for your turn. We should have sent you home. Kelly Vitale will present this. Thank you, Kelly.
Good afternoon. And so before you on page 101 and 102, we have the settlements for the last quarter for the period ending June 30th. I'm sorry, it looks like there's an error. And so we have 7 total settlements, 4 workers' comp and 3 general liability. If you have any questions about those.
Any comments? Questions? The shortest report we had, Kelly.
I know, you don't need to rub it in. I know, it should have been longer. I apologize. I'm working on several.
I know, you do such a good job. We'll take a short report.
Okay, thank you so
All
much.
right. That concludes our discussion, and no action is needed on this one. The next item is item 11 on page 103, and item 12 on page 107 of your packet. Jennifer is back. Budget transfers under the general manager's authority, as well as procurement actions.
Again, it's the quarterly reports. Don't really have anything interesting unless you have questions on 11 and 12. Happy to take them. Just
any questions for Jennifer? Thank you very much. I think that concludes the discussion on all of these items. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak to us about anything? I see a hand, but I don't see a face. Oh, it's Shane. Hi, Shane.
You're doing me out. 3 minutes. How about that?
I don't think we will.
Until tomorrow.
We'll listen.
Directors, good morning. Shane Weinstein, president of all of the bus operators. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today because for the second time in as many months, our union comes before you to fight for our wages, which we have fairly and rightfully negotiated. I first want to make it very clear that the district decided to cut annual pay mid-contract by slashing operator recovery time and did not come to us at all to meet and confer, let alone negotiating. Our bus operators just wrapped up bidding on the upcoming August sign-up and are staring down a massive annual pay cut. The annual pay cut comes from the district management severely shortening recovery time, which in turn shortens the days. This equates to less time on the clock and less money in the operator's pocket. What you didn't hear me say was that the operator will be working less. It's actually the contrary. Driving hours have increased while pay has decreased. Driving miles have increased while pay has decreased. Although Mr. Mulligan tells you that shorter shifts are safer, what he's not telling you is he's working the operators more behind the wheel and taking away their time to recover. What is safe about that? It's also beyond me that the board must approve every pay raise that comes through the district, but management gets away with severely cutting bus operator annual pay mid-contract, something that just isn't right. As you directors know, I've sent you an email with slides to support the union's position. They show all the cool graphs, colors, shapes, and while that all looks cool, what it represents is a massive financial blow to bus operators. The media reminds us every day that the excess cost of groceries, utilities, gas, you name it, and in some cases here, our bus operators are taking hits as much as $1,000 to $1,500 per month. That's no chump change. These operators work extremely hard. They can't just get up and go stretch, go get some fresh air, clear their head, go to the bathroom when they want to. They're driving 4.5 hours or 4 to 5 hours in a bus with a half-hour break at a transit center outside, and then get back into a bus for two to 3 more hours. It's extremely difficult, taxing, and is borderline inhumane. Mr. Mulligan made several arguments as to why these cuts needed to be made in the June Finance Committee meeting. Everything from having excess bus operators on staff to safety and pension, but all of those simply are not accurate. This was a purposeful and deliberate attack on the recovery break time for all Golden Gate Transit bus operators, full stop. Because the district has decided to change how they have operated for decades, the bus operators should not take the brunt of that decision. It is truly unfortunate that our bus operators need to watch an entire district see a raise this coming month, but at the same time, watching their purses and their wallets get smaller. Let's really show the operators appreciation, as Mr. Mulligan puts it, as being the faces of the district. We are asking that the money that came out of the August 2024 run book be restored in its entirety. Let's get to a place where we can negotiate rather than give you 0 options. These operators have an hourly raise coming on September 1st, and I can assure you that those operators will be making significantly less money after they get that raise than they currently are making. And that is very wrong. I appreciate the time very much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Thank you, Shane. With that, we've reached the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Hearing no objections.